Hey there, welcome. How are you today? My name is Dana Tamara, and you've landed on Astro-cast. Welcome. Welcome to the final illumination of 2021. There's so much happening in this Astro-cast, this podcast. So I want to just be really clear and talk slowly and methodically. So um, I make sure I get everything. What a beautiful, beautiful full moon we have coming up. Full moon is happening on December 18th, 8:35 p.m. in San Diego, Los Angeles time. And it really is a beautiful full moon. We've got some really positive aspects with Jupiter, but we also have some pretty challenging aspects with Pluto. Pluto is conjunct to Venus, and the day after the full moon, we have Venus retrograde. And so that can be slightly challenging. It could also be very opening. It just depends on where you're at in your life and how you interpret this. The other thing I want to talk about is the fact that because it's not just the full moon that I want to talk a little bit about today. I also want to talk about the fact that we have the solstice coming up on the 21st. And then on the 23rd, the north and south node move from the Gemini Sagittarius axis to Scorpio and Taurus. So we've got this movement happening, like a lot of movement happening in the stars and the planets. And we also have Saturn and Uranus squaring each other for the last time of 2021. So that's a lot to take in. But it's really like nothing is really surprising. We've had 2020, we had, 6, 7 eclipses when normally we have 4. We've spent a large part of 2021 going back and forth from masks to no masks, from illuminating issues that have been happening subterranean level for decades, for generations. And now, we're finally waking up to it. We had technological advances that are just like exponentially crazy. I mean, looking back, when we look back on this time, it's going to be one of those times in history where we all kind of say, what the hell just happened? And I also want to say, because this is personal for me, there's been a lot of loss in 2021, a lot of loss of jobs, of family members, of life, of freedoms, of, my gosh, just so much shifting. And I can make light of the astrology, and I can also be very science-based, but I also want to be really heart-based too, and just say that this has been a big year to shift. So I hope that you are staying grounded and true to yourself and in your practices, whatever they may be. And I want to go ahead and share my screen with you so that, and I would say, like, for this one, maybe get a little notepad out because I have a lot to share. Chiron's also really active in this one, and I have made friends with Chiron. I wasn't friends with Chiron for a few months there, but I am now. So I'm just going to show you what's going on here. We have the full moon happening here in Gemini at 27 degrees. 27 is, in numerology, it's a 9, and 9 is one of the most auspicious numbers in numerology because it's the end of the single digits, and it's just auspicious. It signifies new beginnings. So if you look at like a set of malva beads, or even a rosary, it's got 108 definitive of 9. So just, you can look it up on your own, but this is very indicative of new beginnings. It's right across from the sun here in Sag. I'm just going to show you this north node, south node thing. So the north node here has been in Gemini. Make a mental note. It's been in Gemini since May of 2020. Let me just repeat that. North node has been in Gemini since May of 2020. And the south node, not pictured here, which is always directly opposite of north node, is in Sagittarius. And so they are pretty much, they're opposite each other. And you'll notice, even though you can't see the south node, it's pretty much conjunct to Mars. Mars is the initiator. So we have this movement now of initiation with South Node, North Node. North Node is North Node, South Node axis is karma. I'll talk a little bit about it at the end of the recording, but the North Node is going to move now into Taurus on the 23rd. Okay. And so whenever the North and South Node moves, it denotes like a 1.5 to 2 year long period of a cycle of what we've learned, of what lessons we've kind of been thrown into, shown, reflected, all the things. And so now we're moving into this new era. So one of the things I want you to do with the full moon is really, sit down and ask yourself, what have been my biggest lessons since May of 2020? What have I learned about myself? What have I learned about how I relate to others? What have I learned about my capabilities? What have I learned about my ego versus my spirit? Just whatever comes up for you, basically your lessons. And again, I'll talk a little bit more about this, but we also have Mercury here in Capricorn, and Mercury is, squaring Chiron. I'll talk about that. Also at 8 degrees, so it's an exact square. Now Chiron is healer, Chiron is healing, Chiron is the sacred warrior, and Mercury is squaring it. And remember I talked a little bit about Venus and Pluto. I have to make sure I take breaths because sometimes I listen to these later and I'm like talking really fast. So I'm going to slow down. I just get really excited. In Capricorn, we also have Venus and Pluto. Okay. And Venus and Pluto, well, Pluto is it's what we call quincunx to the moon. And this is one of those aspects that isn't super helpful. Okay. And I'll go over it in depth in a moment, but it's also conjunct to Venus, and Pluto is about empowerment, transformation, power. And Venus is going into retrograde on the 19th. So you can write that down too. When Venus goes into retrograde, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen for a moment. When Venus goes into retrograde, Venus is in mythology equivalent to the goddess Inanna. And the story goes, maybe I'll find it and post it again. But the story goes that Inanna goes down to the depths of her worldly life, and she goes down into these through these 7 gates to meet her sister Ereshkigal. And there's a big story around it. I don't want to go through it right now, but she has to go down through these depths, and at every gate she has to shed a layer of herself to meet her sister Ereshkigal. And of course, her sister is the dark side of who she is. So when Venus goes into retrograde, we're really talking about our relationships. And let's keep in mind, there's only one person in the room. That's you. Wait, that's you. Only one person in the room. And so all our relationships are reflective of us, of what we're emitting out into the world. So let's just remember that too. Like, that's real. Whatever you're experiencing on the outside of yourself is really something that's going on within you. So when Venus goes into retrograde, it gives us this opportunity to look at our relationships and say, wow, I need to get rid of that person. I need to cut that person out of my life, or I want to be like that person. Instead, it's like, wow, where is that within me? So it's always turning back in. So Venus will be in retrograde for a while and conjunct Pluto during this full moon. Yippee yay yay. Let me go back to sharing my screen so I can pull up a picture. It's crazy. And put on my glasses so I can see. So we have that aspect. Now we also have this other aspect. See this blue line, beautiful blue line to Jupiter. So it's trining Jupiter. And this is beautiful. This is expansion, wisdom, knowledge. It's just absolutely gorgeous. And then a few days after that, we have the solstice, the winter solstice, and then we experience the node shifting. And then we have the last and final Saturn square Uranus. Okay. So it's a lot of energy that's moving right now. And what I want you to do is remember that there's science to this. And so I'm going to share with you all the science behind it, well, some of the science behind it. And there's numerology behind it, and there's a definite like whoa behind it, but it's also what's going on in your life right? So if I would have run a transit report and there were a bunch of planets on this blue outer area, that would tell me like what's happening right now in comparison to your birth chart. So how this all kind of clicks in with your birth chart will really kind of dictate how this is affecting you. That's like your dharma and your karma. But then remember, you also have free will. So there's science, there's dharma, karma, and there's free will. So you always get to choose. So you get to choose how you interpret this information. So one thing I will say, I'm going to go ahead and stop share. And so this full moon being in Gemini, the full moon is always activated by whatever sign it's in. And a full moon is always time to release or to celebrate or to really recognize where we've been during these lunations. Okay. So you want to check in with your vibrational energy during any full moon, but especially when we're talking about Gemini full moon, because Gemini is reflection. Remember, Gemini is two sides. Gemini sees both sides. And your job is to kind of greet that frequency and be like, huh, is that really what I want to be reflecting out into the world? Is that really, because it really is what's showing up. Whatever's showing up is exactly how you're showing up. And so then you can begin to reevaluate how you're showing up and what's really working for you. Gemini is ruled by Mercury, okay? And so I'm going to show you the screen real quick. So Gemini is ruled by, each zodiac sign is ruled by a planet, okay? So Gemini is ruled by Mercury, okay? Sagittarius, which is the opposite, is ruled by Jupiter. So, and that's where the nodes have been. So this is kind of a cool situation that we're in right now, right? So we have the sun on the south node in Sag, and then we have the moon and the north node in Gemini. And then we have right here, whoa, that's amazing. Mercury and Capricorn. Mercury and Capricorn is all about getting shit done. Like Mercury's like, get your plans in order. Come on, let's go. What are you doing? Day to day, day to day, day to day. Because Capricorn's very friendly with Mercury. Jupiter sitting in Aquarius is about expansive knowledge and wisdom and, oh my gosh, I have this great idea and I want to run with it. And how can I assimilate all of the things that I've learned over the last year and a half and put it all together? So both of those things are happening with this full moon. Excuse me for 1 second. Okay. Both of those things are happening in this moment. I haven't gotten to Pluto and Venus yet, but both of these things are happening with Mercury sitting there and creating this aspect with Chiron and Mercury being the ruler of this moon, and then Jupiter. It's like you've been offered these opportunities to initiate plans and ideas and new creativity and all this stuff, right? Maybe potentially, maybe that's not you, but hopefully something, if you dug deep, maybe something came up for you that you've been able to kind of try on this year, right? Now's the time to start initiating these processes without overthinking and without doubting, like really knowing that you have the sign of Jupiter, of wisdom, of knowledge, of expansion behind you saying, let's freaking do this thing, right? So let's do this thing. Let me go ahead and stop share. So Gemini full moon, north and south node, Venus retrograde. So this is another bit that's important. So I talked a little bit about Venus retrograde earlier, about how it's when Venus goes into retrograde, it's time to look at relationships. Because it's conjunct to Pluto, this can be an extremely transformative time for you with regard to relationships. And it doesn't mean that relationships have to blow up in order for you to experience bliss. It could mean that you just need to look at the relationships that are in front of you just a little bit differently, and you may realize that what you were searching for all along has been sitting right there at your front doorstep, but you maybe have had like a block, right? Now, the other side to this coin is that Pluto is about empowerment and transformation, Venus retrograde. The other side to this coin is that if you have allowed yourself to be a part of relationships that are manipulative, disempowering, and I'm not saying you are, although you could be that person, just own it, it's fine. But if you're in relationships that are manipulative or disempowering, or not really reciprocal, and not, really for the benefit of all, those relationships will, the truth will come to light. The truth will come to light, and somebody will walk away, or somebody will say, I've had enough, because there's an imbalance of power. So when the full moon is quincunx to Pluto and also Venus, power struggles and imbalances tend to happen in relationships. And so passion can become very strong, like this desire for something or someone, or to be on top of your game, whatever it is. Maybe it's a program, maybe it's not even someone, maybe it's some sort of program that you're starting to initiate, or a new project, right? You have this like passion toward it, but there's some sort of power struggle that's keeping you from really like gelling, right? And there's so many ways this can apply to you, and maybe it's not about you, but if you zoom out, you will see that somewhere in the world this is happening. And so just remember that honesty, integrity, and authenticity will bring you the most honest, integrous, authentic life possible. So just kind of go in that direction of authenticity. I want to talk a little bit about Jupiter. So because whenever I talk a little bit about Pluto, even though that planet is so small, it just wreaks so much havoc. Pluto is like this, like the little like 2-year-old that's so small that just like always has its hands in something. But the moon is trine to Jupiter. I'll go ahead and share my screen again. So the moon is trine to Jupiter. Here's Jupiter. Bing. And it's trine. And then that means it's only 60 degrees away, or sextile to the sun, which is amazing. Again, whenever you see these blue lines on a chart, it's harmonious aspects. Whenever you see red lines, it's a little more tense. But full moon trine Jupiter is really about being optimistic, having a positive outlook, to even if something is unfolding in a way that isn't exactly what you thought it was going to be, try to reflect and have a sense of like, okay, maybe there's a piece I'm not seeing, so let me try to have a positive outlook. I talked about this in class today. I made everybody in class like put this little smile on their face, and I was like, if you just keep smiling, you'll tell the body that everything is perfect. And then doesn't mean you're bypassing, it just means you're trying to shift your cells to search for optimism and joy and peace and contentment, so that when you need to fire up somewhere else or some other way, you can. But this full moon trine Jupiter is really very positive. And I think this kind of reminds me of when we talk about Lakshmi. Okay, so Jupiter, first of all, is relatable to Vishnu, his air, very much about wisdom and knowledge. And I always think of like Venus like Lakshmi. Okay, so Lakshmi is the goddess of abundance and gratitude and beauty and value and love, right? And so sometimes when we chant to Lakshmi, or people will chant to Lakshmi when they feel they're like at a loss, or they're losing something, or they're like, oh my God, I need Lakshmi. I need to call in Lakshmi. And what Lakshmi tries to teach us is that we don't need anything. We actually have everything we need. And so even in those times when we're, at a loss, or we feel exhausted, or we feel depleted, there's ways to give with infinite a feeling of infinite generosity. And that is this idea behind this full moon trining Jupiter, is like, my gosh, like, what if we could just have this feeling of infinite generosity and give to other people? And it doesn't even have to be monetarily, but like, give our space, give our time, look at someone, smile at them, you know, send a sweet text, like just something that will um, amplify and support that sense of connection. I said this years ago when I first started teaching at Yoga Tree Castro. So that was back in like 2012 or something, 2011. And I said this years ago, you know, we're moving in a direction of where we're going to think as a society that we're connected because we're on the phone and we can connect with people really quickly. And even I can feel connection as I'm recording this. I can feel connection from God to source to you while you're watching it later. But it's not the same as like looking at someone and going, hey, I see you, or like standing in the grocery line and like looking at that person's name and their name tag and like saying thank you by their name, like these little things that we tend to forget. And I think now is a really beautiful time to come back to that, because it shows that you're connected in this earthly realm. And it's a lost art. And so I guess with this full moon trining Jupiter, think expansion, think optimism, think joy, think graciousness, think gratitude, think big. And if you've been working on some projects, like I personally have been working on, like, oh my God, there was so much inspiration that flooded in after the eclipse. And I just was like, I'm starting all of this, even though I'm knowing that it's not all going to come to fruition right away. If that's you, don't lose steam. Like, stay with what you've gotten kind of out on paper or through voice, or maybe it's a relationship. Stick with it, because there's this little like bump in the road when Saturn and Uranus kind of, you know, square each other, and maybe it's a clarity or there's some movement happening, but stay true to that bigger vision and that inspiration that you have like dropped into your heart. It's really important, because we're going to be tested over the next couple weeks, not in a bad way. You're just going to be tested to your belief in yourself, really. And then there's just a couple of little things that I want to talk about. Mercury, I touched on a little bit, Mercury square Chiron. So this kind of pushes you into wanting to amplify your gifts and really make a difference in the world. So, you know, when I talk to people and I say, I just want to do more, they're like, what? You're already doing enough. But I have this big dream, and I know it's coming. I have this big dream of starting a co-living space for single moms. And I have this dream because I could have used something like that all these years. And little flashes of insight are coming to me, but I know it's not time, right? And so that's what I mean when I say wanting to do more. I don't need to do any more, and neither do you. But if you can widen your aperture and see how you can do what you do and create a humanitarian effort in just the smallest bits. And like I said, it could be just smiling at the grocer, or giving a gift card to, you know, the kid who packs your groceries all the time. You know what I mean? Like, these little things, how can we make a big difference by just even acting a little bit differently? Mercury trine Uranus, which is all about your intuition. So Mercury trine Uranus, that's lower mind trining higher mind. So that's going to give you this opportunity to get like flashes of insights. And I would say just, you know, act on them if they feel good. And really try to block out any kind of negativity. The negativity is not going to help you at all. Mars is trining Chiron. So this is speeding up your healing. This is like creating an initiatory process. And when I say speed up your healing, it doesn't mean we're like, I'm healed. It means it's going to give you the steps that you need a little bit quicker. So sometimes that's uncomfortable, but sometimes you can look at it as like a beautiful gift, then it's all are welcome here. And then just to touch a little bit on this North Node into Taurus. So North Node moving into Taurus is really about, the North Node is about karma. So North Node moving into Taurus, it activates on the 22nd or the 23rd, and it'll stay there till July 12th of 2023. And this is really about defining who you are. This is about your identity. This is about you cutting emotional dependencies, economical dependencies, really feeling a sense of deep connection to self. That's North Node in Taurus. Creating healthy boundaries for yourself. Taurus is about home, health, hearth, and sensuality. And so really giving you the opportunity to first take care of your physical body, your mental structure, your emotional sense of being. And, that'll be the theme through 2023. And we're shifting themes now. So as you can see, this full moon is not just the full moon in Gemini and bam, we've got a full moon Gemini. It's like, oh my gosh, so woven into so much. So I want to just say a couple things before I let you go on your own. One is take some time on the full moon always to just journal and create ritual for yourself, whatever that means, whether it's burning sage or writing some things out, put it in a fire pit, whatever works for you. I've done full moon circles forever, and there's no right or wrong way to do it. And you can do it on your own, or you can be in a group of people. I did create what I call the moon phase journal, and I unfortunately don't have a copy right with me, which is unfortunate, but it's okay. And it really is a beautiful journal that helps you to kind of keep track of the turns each new and full moon. So it helps you keep track of the phases of the moon. And there's 13 lunations in it. And I absolutely love this journal. I've been journaling like this forever, since as long as I can remember. And so I finally was like, I'm creating a journal. Now, this isn't a journal that you have to buy at the beginning of 2022, and then that's it. You can get it anytime you want. You can get it anytime you want, but there's space in there for 13 lunations. And I did that on purpose because I don't ever want anyone to feel like they have to hurry up and go buy something. That's just silly. Start where you are and journal, and it's beautiful. There is a link to it in my description here. And you can go to danademara.com and purchase one for yourself or for a gift. They come in a hardcover or a soft cover. I absolutely love them. But the one thing we do in Moon Phase Journal, you can use this video as your prompter. We do what we call heart mapping. And heart mapping is so powerful. It's like mind mapping, but you're mapping from your heart instead of your brain, because your brain tends to ruminate and overthinks, where your heart knows everything. The heart knows everything. And so we do what we call heart map. So it's all written in the journal, and I love it. And there's no like special discount or anything. It's just something that I hope you see the value of. And I hope you can use, because I've used it and it's been very helpful for me over the years. And buy yourself some really fun pens or markers to draw. There's lots of space in it. So, and then if you're in Encinitas area, I am not doing a full moon circle. I'm instead doing a solstice sound bath at Alila. Very excited. We'll be in the ballroom. It'll be nice and warm and cozy, and it's going to be pretty amazing. So I invite you to look at either or all of those things, or none, but at least keep following the moon and reach out to me if you'd like your chart read. It's always fun to kind of see where your chart matches up with the moon. And in the meantime, I hope you are happy and healthy and experiencing a beautiful, blessed day. Take care of yourself and take care of each other. Namaste. Have a gorgeous day. Bye-bye.